Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sephora, and in this video, I am going to be talking about who is the real enemy of extremist, jihadist, terrorist groups like ISIS, the Taliban, and Hamas. They're really all kind of the same thing, and they really all have the same enemy. And spoiler alert, it's not Israel. I mean, it is Israel, obviously, but it's not only Israel, and it's not really Israel. Before I get into it, do me a favor and subscribe. I've been posting a lot of shorts. I'm not on TikTok, so this is like the equivalent of what I would potentially post on TikTok if I were. But subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and let's get right into it. So what I'm going to say in this video, it's not breaking news. It's not something that's not known. On the contrary, it's actually been really obvious for years if you've been paying attention. Sometimes those are the things that you need to point out, the things that are the most obvious or the things that people forget about. But if you've been paying attention, you would know the real enemy of all of these terrorist groups is actually the entirety of the West, including, of course, the United States. Now, sometimes Israel is used as like a bit of a cover. Well, geographically and militarily, they're literally located within the Middle East, which is part of the reason of why Israel is such an important ally to the United States, because they're literally there within what is a hotbed of many countries that are run by or contain within them terrorist groups. But it also allows for a level of dissonance because most Americans, they're reading the news and having their morning coffee, and it's about this like hypothetical, arbitrary Middle East, out across the ocean, and what does that have to do with me? But the idea that an October 7th couldn't possibly happen on American soil is, it actually did happen on September 11th, 2001, right here in New York City where I grew up. And I was really young on September 11th. I was like 5, 6 years old. So there's a lot that I don't remember, but the things that I do remember are really core memories and indelible. One thing, you're going to see this because September 11th is this week, and this sort of became the slogan of September 11th was never forget, never forget. Obviously, we forgot. We forgot that America is not invincible. We forgot that America can be vulnerable to terrorist attacks. We forgot that America is the enemy of terrorist groups. And it isn't just the United States, by the way. This has happened in other parts of the West as well. Just recently, a few weeks ago, there was an attempted, it was mitigated, but there was an attempted terrorist attack on a Taylor Swift concert in Vienna. And I remember at the time, everyone was saying, this is what it means when you yell globalize the Intifada. What do you think that looks like? This is what it looks like, which is true. But I remember I tweeted in response to this tweet reporting it. I said, I still don't think people will allow themselves to connect the tiniest of dots to realize that this is what they are yelling for when they say globalize the Intifada. They'll just be like, my gosh, so scary, glad everyone is safe, and go right on with their idiotic protesting. Which is obviously exactly what happened, right? So you have people, that cannot connect the dots. And this also happened in the UK. You might remember just a couple of years ago in, I think, 2018, there was a suicide bomber with ties to ISIS at an Ariana Grande concert in Manchester. And she created this benefit afterwards, One Love Manchester. And they talked about love wins, we won't let the hate win, etc., etc. And so I thought it would be interesting to look up the lineup of performers from that concert and see where do they stand on the current conflict? Are they siding with the terrorist groups that they were like, we'll never let them win? Now, to be fair, it was fairly split. One of the producers on that performance was Scooter Braun, who is obviously he's Jewish, and he's been extremely vocal in support of the hostages, in support of Israel since October 7th. But there were some performers of that lineup that have been on the side of Hamas, posting Hamas talking points and propaganda and siding with them. And the idea of that is so crazy to me. You missed the whole point. You performed at a concert that was a benefit for victims of a terrorist attack, and now you're supporting terrorists with that same ideology. That people cannot make this connection. 9/11, One Love Manchester, this attempt at the Taylor Swift concert. However, once you realize this, that the enemy of all of these terrorist groups is actually the entire West and the United States, you start to understand why you have this very bizarre appearing of far woke progressives teaming up with Hamas and the Palestinian movement, which Hamas is fundamentalist, misogynistic, like it's so against everything that all of these woke progressives claim to stand for. And that's why people make fun of them and call them chickens or KFC, right? Because they're basically fighting against their own self-interest. But when you understand that the real enemy is the United States and the West, it starts to make sense why they would team up together, because they have a common enemy. The far left, the woke left, has been clear for many years now that they hate America, that they hate the West.
We all should be boycotting the 4th of July this year. America does not deserve a birthday.
They think America built on stolen land, systemically racist, and should be burned down to the very, very core. And they hate it. They hate the West. And so are they chickens for KFC? Yeah. I didn't say they were smart. I didn't say they were self-preserving, but they do have a common enemy. To say that they have nothing in common is not true. They both hate the West and they both hate America. What's actually more hypocritical than the far left anti-Israel activists are the far right anti-Israel activists, which, granted, the ones on the right are significantly more fringe, but they do exist. And what's even more ironic about that side is that they call themselves America First. They say America's been bought out by Israel and the Jews, they run everything in America, blah, blah, blah. And it's in the name of America First that they're choosing the side of the conflict that burns American flags and yells death to America. Not death to Israel, also death to Israel, but death to America at their rallies. That is significantly more chickens for KFC, in my opinion. And it just goes to show how deep anti-Semitism runs. This is really where you start to see the anti-Semitism that's connected to anti-Zionism, because you see on both sides, on the far left and on the far right, you see people that will go against their own self-interests rather than siding with Jews. That is anti-Semitism. Here's a clip of Trump calling this out.
We will deport the foreign jihad sympathizers, and we will deport them very quickly, and Hamas supporters will be gone. If you hate America, if you want to eliminate Israel, then we don't want you in our country. We really don't want you in our country.
I think Trump made a big statement here, because those are people that would potentially side with him. And he's saying, like, you're anti-American. Don't, just because you name yourself America First, that doesn't mean you're actually America First. So I want to wrap up this video because I'm not like a doomsday kind of person, even though I think that this is a real threat to America. It's a threat to our national security. It's a threat to the future of Western civilization and the Western Empire. However, I will say this. A couple months ago, maybe April, May, around that time, when there was a lot of college campus protests, pro-Hamas protests, pro-Palestinian protests, anti-American protests. During that time, you know, sometimes you see a picture and it's like instantly, you know, this picture is historic. You could like literally see it in a kid's history book graffiti because they were born. I think the most iconic image to come out of those weeks of protesting was this picture of a bunch of fraternity guys surrounding the American flag, protecting it from being destroyed, burned by protesters. As soon as I saw that image, I was instantly reminded of another iconic American image that has the same, it's telling the same story. And that is post 9/11, probably the most famous picture coming out of 9/11, the ruins of a terrorist attack behind them, and 3 firefighters raising the American flag. And the message that both of these images give is land of the free, home of the brave, in the face of terrorism. And when I saw that picture of those college kids, it gave me a lot of hope, because it made me realize that everything that I've been talking about in this video, about that this is not really about Israel, that this is really about America, it made me realize that a lot of Americans either have been aware of or are waking up to this reality and are fighting back. I do feel like now the mask has slipped. Like they're not even pretending anymore that this is about Israel. They're being really clear at this point that it's about America, that it's about the West. And I talked about how post 9/11, I remember certain things as really core memories and very strongly. And one of the things that I remember from that time is that after 9/11, all around New York, you could not go anywhere without seeing American flags. I mean, every house, every car had an American flag. I would even play this game with my siblings when we would go on family trips where we would try to count as many American flags as we can and try to beat our record because that's how many there were. This patriotism, this American patriotism in the face of terrorism really was ignited. And I think that might be what's happening now. And I think that's how a lot of people feel about this upcoming election, is that that's really what's on the ballot. It's the survival of America. It's the survival of the West. It's national security at a domestic and foreign policy level. And I think that's why people are taking this election really seriously. And so I do want to end this video because it is September 11th, to thank all of the first responders, all of the service members, and everybody that works every day to keep our country and our city safe. I hope you learned something in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and comment. Let me know what you want me to talk about in future videos. Like, comment, share. I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.